Hey everyone, here's just a bit of a bonus segment for people mainly who are interested in ZQuest and wanted me to continue with the tutorial, which I've basically given up on because I've covered most of the basics. Here's just sort of an insight into the ending of Victip's Adventure 2, so you can see how a lot of this was made, because I know a lot of you are probably kind of interested in that. So, let me just start with the mini-games, just to briefly get into this kind of stuff. Here we've got the start of the Victip Bonk minigame, and something as simple as this loading screen might confuse some people, but basically what I have here is a timed warp. If you don't know how to set up a timed warp, you set a side warp without setting any particular sides, and set the number of ticks. A tick is 1/60th of a second, so this lasts for half a second before it proceeds to this, and then so on, until the game begins. And now, here, basically you have 2 seconds to hit the Victip before it goes back down, or actually I think it's 3 because you have the 0 counts. So that works basically by just having a 180 timed warp ticks. This object here is an item that I just have the animation speed set up in such a way that it lasts exactly 3 seconds. And if you don't make it in time, it'll side warp you to this, saying that you lost, can you try again? And this screen works by placing the character over here, and if you say yes, it moves you onto this, or something. Where is that? I guess it would be this. Yeah, it's a stairs combo right down there, and if you say yes, then it warps you back to the beginning of the game again. If you say no, then it side warps you off the screen back here. Then, where's that? Here's the game again. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to do. It's kind of annoying to navigate through this, I'm sorry. Okay, so assuming you do hit it in time, what happens is it's a hammer flag, which activates all the other secret flags on the screen, which basically turns everything into a pit warp, which activates the tile warp and dumps you off in the exact same coordinates where you were. And now it's somewhere else, and it adds one up here, which is just on a layer. One of these layers. Maybe I just drew it up there. Nope, it's a layer, alright. These are all layers, I guess. And so, if you fail, it takes you back. If you don't, it keeps going. It works the same way. Anyway, something a bit more complex would be the cutscenes in the boss fight. So here's where this all begins. You side warp. Here's the beginning of the cutscene. Here we've just got more standard animation fare, and here's where they start talking. And so what happens here is I don't want to have a timed warp because it might warp you out of the screen before you finish reading all the text. So the player has to have the option when to get out of this. So to do that, you basically do the same thing as the try again screen. You place the character at the end and have a side warp going down to go to the next part of the cutscene, and it proceeds as such. This here is just basic. It's frame by frame animation basically. The lightning and stuff animates on its own just because those are tiles, but the actual growth couldn't be animating because animation takes place even if you're not on the screen. So he might be partially through his transformation by the time you got here. So these are all individual screens. And it works like that. And then we've just got basically the same fare here with dodging the blue orbs, done frame by frame. The Triforce is just an actual item placed on the screen. I didn't mean to do that. That he makes fly off and then it flashes and whatnot. Now here's the boss fight. One thing about the boss fight worth noting would be the health bar up here. The health bar is on its own layer. It's not an actual health bar, it's just something drawn on. You can see it's on layer 6, which is map 11, screen 0E, so let's check out that one. And there's the health bar. And as you can see, I have all the different stages of the health bar on here, ready to place when necessary. On this screen, you're supposed to get the dust pile in order to start the fight, so that's just an item, and is surrounded by pit warps, which will take you to the screen with all the dark nuts on it. And so when you kill all of them, it activates enemy secret, and everything turns into a pit warp to send you to the next part of the fight. Now here's where things start getting particularly complex. Big Dark here is not an enemy. It should be pretty easy to figure that out because you can't really make enemies like this. They're not programmed into the game. So he's actually just drawn straight on and uses combo cycling. As you can see, here's the graphics where he is basically, and his body will damage you, and the regular floors are undefined. But they all have combo cycling, and they all animate, even the floor ones, which don't seem to animate at all. That's just because of how combo cycling works. If you check here, you'll see everything has 10 frames. And that is because what happens is here, once it once it gets through the 10 frames, it will look at the next combo in the sequence, which for this one here, it would be this one, which is the lightning, which damages you, which then cycles to an identical one, because I want this one to last, I want the damaging phase to last longer than the non-damaging phase, so it goes through 2 of these, before eventually cycling back to the first one. And so all this is just done by putting 10 of each graphic in a row and cycling them as you need to do. And so to damage him, all you do is hit him with the sword, and then the 80 and 81 flags are basically strike with the sword to activate secrets, and so doing that activates all the other ones, which are pit warps, which will take you to the next screen. Now, assuming you don't hit him in time, I have a timed warp in place to send you back to fight the Dark Knights again. And so then, if you do hit him, it takes you to another scene where he is floating around. I'm not sure if I can find... I guess it's these. Yeah, actually... just because I don't want to really get into that too much, but basically these, I could just have him floating with the Ling of Lightning around him. The other ones, because they use combo cycling, I couldn't really do that. But basically, what I have here are 3 enemy placement flags, which place fire shooters under him, so he shoots fireballs. And this last one here, 78, is reflected fireball. So when you do that, it activates all the other ones. So he shoots you, and you have to hit the specific corner of it. If you hit any of the other parts, it won't activate it. But I tried to set up this fight in such a way that the one you'd be most likely to hit is the one that activates it. And then once you do that, he moves, and you basically repeat the process. And then you've got this one, which is basically the same before, except it's going twice as fast. Because here I have the animation speed set to 5, and here it is 2, because counting 0 as 1, which makes 5, 6, and makes 2, 3, that will go twice as fast, basically. And that's the bulk of the fight, not counting the stuff where he turns into different enemies, which should be pretty self-explanatory. But anyway, you eventually beat him, you go through this cutscene, which is basically the same as the other one. Except now it sends us to this, which is, again, the same general concept, but to a much grander scale, because you can see on the bottom how each one of these frames is a different screen. It took a lot of screens to set this up. And so once you reach this point, this is all done on one screen of them flying, but it was very complicated to set up. It uses many layers. Layer 6 is the beam around them, and it's transparent. 5 is them flying around themselves, which basically I just had to draw frame by frame and animate properly. There was no real secret to that. It just took some elbow grease. And then 4 and 3 are the star field in the background. I have the same general animation for these stars, but I have it going at 2 different speeds. And so layering them over each other, it gives the illusion of depth. And that is how that is done. The star fields themselves are complicated, but there's not really much to it, if that makes any sense. It's just, if you look down on the bottom here, you can see how it, or sorry, over here actually, you can see how it animates. They just sort of, what just happened there? They just sort of fly by like that. And doing that was just basically a process of finding a way to set up the stars in such a way that they would be interesting looking and sort of animate like that. And then I had to draw them on the screen, basically in opposite order, but animating, like they're animating going left, but I had to draw them the other way. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but basically that's how that works. And the rest of it is really just more of the same, just a bunch of timed warps. For all these credit stuff, I had to actually draw the credits on individual tiles, putting all that in separately. It took a very long time. So hopefully, if you couldn't appreciate the amount of effort that went into this before, you can now. And hopefully you're also a bit more informed on how you'd set up this kind of stuff. Because the trick with ZQuest is you just need to know what it can do, and then you need to know how you can abuse that to make it do what you want.